evening everybody and welcome back to the current affairs lecture series that we have been doing for last 1 year. And today I'll be talking a bit about what kind of current affairs should we study for the exams and what kind of current affairs that we should avoid, that we should not study. A lot of things are going on in the world, right? But everything is not important for like UPSC exam or other state exams also. What we need to study, first of all, whenever you look at the newspaper or anything that is going on in the current world, like any that amounts to some kind of current affairs, you should try to link that in the static portion, like in polity. Most of the current affairs that are important are from either from polity or from economy. So like for example, if RBI has released its monetary policy for the first quarter, so you need not remember what kind of repo rate or what percentage of repo rate or all these percentage you do not need to remember for exams like UPSC. Someone preparing for NABARD or RBI, in those specific exams it can be asked, okay, or even for banking exams it can be asked. So but UPSC, they are not going to ask what was, because it is a continuous process of change. Every quarter they will change, every bi-monthly they might change. So it is not a very important from the point of view of UPSC exam or state PCS also. The second thing, like Russia and Ukraine ka conflict is going on, so you need not keep an eye on everything that is happening, okay. It can be important from mains point. For prelims point of view, since it is related to the world geography, international relations, you can remember something about the mapping, like Black Sea, the mapping of Ukraine, the countries neighboring the Ukraine, like in the west, Poland and all these countries. You can remember some of them. Uske baad you can remember Russia, which countries are touching Russia, okay. So these are the things that you need to remember from this whole conflict. The second thing, you need not remember, you need not read all the op-ed articles that are published in the newspapers. I don't believe that is going to be very helpful. For mains exam, the question might come relating to some peace treaty. For that, you need to study the static portion of the international relations. Yes, you need to have the understanding of what kind of conflict is going on, okay, but you need not remember all these important facts ki Mariupol pe attack ho gaya and all these okay, and all these like trivial facts you need not remember. What you need to focus on, if there's a conflict going on in this world, then you need to focus on the geography and the other aspects related to the static portion, okay. You need not read all these lengthy articles as to whose position is fair, whose position is unfair. Yes, you can form an opinion, you should read, it is advisable, but for the exam point of view it is not very important, right? But yes, as a bureaucrat, as an administrator, you need to have an opinion on these issues, but a lot of focus should not, a lot of energy should not be diverted in that direction. That is what I want to say. Okay, so last week there was not much in news. Still, we have taken up some very important topics, and I'll tell you ki how to go through these topics. Not only are we going to discuss these topics, but we'll have a walkthrough around these topics as to how to tackle these, okay. So the first topic that we are taking today is, can election commission deregister political parties? So there are two things here. The first one is political parties. The second was the election commission. And this topic relates completely to the polity section of our syllabus. Okay, this relates to polity. Now, why this question? Because a petition was filed by one lawyer in the Supreme Court to allow deregistering of those political parties who are offering irrational freebies in their election manifestos. Okay. To that, Supreme Court asked Election Commission's reply on this, to which Election Commission has replied that it is not necessary, neither is it in the power of Election Commission to deregister political parties. Here you can see two news clips that I have taken from Business Standard and Deccan Herald. Election can't ban promise of freebies by parties. It shows the inability legally of Election Commission. The second point is it does not have to deregister parties. Voters need to consider. That means one very important point here to note here is a democracy or any system of governance which is participative in nature, democracy of course, so that does not need legislation for every single thing. Okay? So that will become what? A legislative democracy. It should be a participative democracy where the voter is aware, where the voter is very much conscious about what kind of vote, what kind of person he is choosing. In that scenario, Election Commission expects not to ban the parties or to deregister them, but it relies on the wisdom of the common man. Okay? And that is the beauty of democracy. It is not, the democracy is not based on the wisdom of the very elites or the very educated ones. But due to universal single franchise, every person, no matter what position he is in, no matter how educated, they have all one single vote with equal value. Okay, the value of the vote is equal, no matter he is Ambani or is a very poor person in the village. That is the beauty of democracy, and that is why Election Commission has said that they are not considering banning or deregistering political parties just because of the irrational freebies that they are offering in election manifestos. Rather, the voter or the constituents needs to decide which party to vote for and what kind of election promises are real or not. Okay, so the Election Commission has left it on the wisdom of the voter. Now, second point that we are going to look into is Election Commission. So we'll be making a very small tour of Election Commission because you can read it in the book. That is not very important for, like, what I will be discussing is about political parties. Because in latest years, in last 3-4 years, there has been one or two question in prelims regarding the political parties and in mains regarding the political reforms related to political parties. Okay? So that is why I have taken political parties rather than Election Commission. Election Commission के बारे में दो तीन चीजें हम जान लेंगे. That are, Election Commission is what? A constitutional body under article. Election Commission is a constitutional body, okay, under article 324. Election Commission is vested with the power of conducting, basically superintendence, conducting and regulation of elections in India. Okay, elections in India. Now, which elections? Election Commission is not authorized to conduct all the elections, but to the Lok Sabha, to Rajya Sabha, President, okay, President and Vice President, and the last one is Vidhan Sabha or State Legislative Assemblies, SLAs. Okay, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, President, Vice President and State Legislative Assemblies. Election Commission is authorized to conduct and regulate the elections to these bodies. So which body is left? The third tier of government. Okay, the third tier of government basically municipalities and panchayats. So municipalities and panchayats election are conducted by state election commissions. Okay, are conducted by state election commissions and not by election commission. Okay, and not by election commission. Okay, election commission is a constitutional body. It conducts elections to the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, the President, the Vice President and the State Legislative Assemblies. But for the elections of panchayats and municipalities, who is responsible? Every state has its own state election commission that was formed under the 73rd Amendment, okay, 1992. Okay, this amendment gave constitutional recognition to the third tier of governments, basically panchayats. And 74th Constitutional Amendment Act gave constitutional recognition. It only gave constitutional recognition and it did not establish Panchayati Raj system in India. Okay, whenever if there is a question that 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act implemented or established the Panchayati Raj in India, that is a false statement. Okay, what is the correct statement? It gave constitutional recognition because Panchayati Raj bodies were present prior to this amendment also. Okay, so this was brought just to put them in just to provide these bodies a constitutional recognition and to provide some kind of uniformity throughout the country ki every state would have some kind of third level of governance. Okay, so I hope you understood. These tidbits, these facts are very important from the point of prelims. Okay. Okay, so that was about election commission. Okay, so election, although the election commission has been mentioned in constitution, political parties have not been mentioned in constitution. Okay, what has been, it has been mentioned in where after the independence of country, two acts were formed. The first was Representation of Peoples Act 1950 and the second was RPA 1951. These two acts. So RPA 1951 talks about the conduct of elections. Conduct of elections, okay, and also political parties, and also about the recognition to political parties. Okay, so anyone can form a political party in India. Okay, anyone can form a political party of India in India, but they will have to register themselves with the Election Commission of India. They will have to register themselves with the Election Commission of India. Okay, which body is the nodal authority with respect to conduct of elections in India? Election Commissions of India. And all these bodies which are political parties, okay, a political party can be formed. To fight the elections, they will have to register themselves with the Election Commission of India. Okay, after registering themselves with the Election Commission of India, Election Commission, ECI will provide them recognition on some or based on some specific parameters, that is the performance of these political parties in the elections, whether it is general election to Lok Sabha or Vidhan Sabha or Rajya Sabha or whatsoever. Okay, that means political parties can only fight elections after registering themselves with Election Commission of India, and it is provided under where under Representation of Peoples Act 1951. Okay, now let's have a look as to how many kinds of political parties are there in India. So there are 2-3 systems of political parties in the world. The first one is single party system. Single party system is in China. Okay, the Communist Party of China, CCP, can only rule. Although you can form other political parties as well, but you cannot contest elections in China. If you are not from Communist Party of China, you cannot contest elections. You can form a political party, but you cannot contest an election. So it is of course of no use. It is single party. The second is two party system is in USA. In such a system, it is not mandatory that only two parties can be formed. Okay? Like in USA, there are two parties. The one is Republicans. Okay, the other is Democrats. Currently, the Joe Biden administration represents Democrats. Prior to this, Donald Trump represented Republicans. Okay, in such a system, it is not mandatory that only two parties can be formed. But what happens is, these two parties have such a dominance that no other party contests elections. But even if they contest election, they are not able to win any kind of majority and hence not able to rule. Therefore, in two-party system, it is not necessary that only two parties will exist. Many other political parties can be formed. They can also contest elections, but since the polity of that country is being governed by either of these two parties, it is called two-party system. The third is multi-party system. Multi-party system में क्या है? There are many political parties and they all contest elections, and the country is being federally ruled by a mix of all these parties. Okay, like India. India has, so in India also, political parties can be categorized on the basis of the recognition provided by Election Commission of India into two parts. The first was unrecognized political party, the second one is recognized political party. Now what is unrecognized political party? We'll look at what is unrecognized, but first of all, recognized political parties. Any party can be recognized only if it is either a nationalist party or a state party. That means the prior condition for a political party to be recognized. We'll understand in a while what it means to be recognized. Okay, we'll understand it in a while. But first of all, the prior condition that we are going to look into is कि for a political party to be recognized, it should either be a state party or a national party. तो स्टेट पार्टी का एग्जांपल AIADMK, उनका ये सिंबल है लीव्स, 2 लीव्स. एंड नेशनल पार्टी का एग्जांपल, द फर्स्ट वन इज BJP, सेकंड वन इज दिस इज TMC, ये TMC का फ्लैग है, तृणमूल कांग्रेस बंगाल, एंड दिस वन इज कांग्रेस, इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस. ओके, तो दीज आर नेशनल पार्टीज. वी विल लुक एट द डेफिनेशन कि नेशनल पार्टी कौन सी होती है, स्टेट पार्टी कौन सी होती है, कैसे ये क्लासिफिकेशन, व्हाट इज द क्राइटेरिया, द ग्राउंड फॉर मेकिंग दिस काइंड ऑफ क्लासिफिकेशन. वी विल लुक इनटू दैट. बट you need to understand what is a state party. That means any party that is neither a national party nor a state party is an unrecognized party. That means any party that is neither a national party nor a state party is an unrecognized political party. That means if a political party is not performing so well that it can get the recognition as a national party or a state party, so it will be called registered unrecognized party. ठीक है, it is there's a lot of doubt in students about these things. That is why I try to clear this all. This is registered unrecognized parties, and these are registered political party, recognized political. That means both of them are registered. Election Commission has registered both of them. ठीक है, but Election Commission has not provided recognition to these. Like one example is Apna Dal contesting in UP. Okay, it is an ally of BJP right now in UP, but it is contesting, but it is neither a state party, neither a national party nor a national party, but it contests within the Uttar Pradesh. ठीक है, the state of Uttar Pradesh. So it contests election in, right now it is an ally of BJP. So Apna Dal is what? An unrecognized political party. It is a registered unrecognized political party. I hope you understood. These differences are very important to understand and to remember as well. Okay, apologies for the minor technical glitch. I hope you understood this type of political parties. Now we will look at what are the benefits of getting what happens. In a very simple definition, if a political party performs very well, then it will be recognized by Election Commission of India. And if it is performing at such a level that it has a mandate throughout the India, then it will be called a national party. And if it has a mandate within the state only, then it will be called state party. Okay, so we'll be looking at some privileges that are associated with getting recognized by Election Commission. Okay, so what are the privileges of recognized political parties? The very first and the most important is they get airwaves, they get space on national TV and national radio. Okay, state owned radio and TV channels, they get what they get specific time for running their advertisements. Okay, like BJP and Congress and TMC, all these parties they get basically equal time to like promote their ads on where All India Radio and of course the DD1 and state owned news channels. Okay, for providing them all a fair ground. Second one is recognized parties need only one proposer to file nomination. Nomination file means whenever there is an election in India, or whenever there is an election, the person who is contesting election, they will have to have backing of at least some people, and then they will be filing their nominations with the returning officer. Okay? तो रिटर्निंग ऑफिसर विल आस्क देम हु आर द पीपल who propose you to be the contender of this election. So if a person who is fighting from some registered recognized party, so that person will need only one proposer, otherwise it is 15. Okay, national and state parties can have up to 40 star campaigners. ठीक है, तो there is a limit on what kind of expenditure a national or state party can have, or any party that is contesting election commission has put a limit, a bar as to you cannot spend more than this. तो for star campaigners, ठीक है, तो national parties and state parties, okay, which are recognized by election commission, they can have up to 40 star campaigners. And why is it important? Because the election expenses of these star campaigners are not counted in the election expenses of that political party. That means 40 star campaigners can be availed by that political party without breaching the limit of the financial bar that election commission has put on. Okay. Secondly, the registered unrecognized, RU means registered unrecognized parties, can have up to only 20 star campaigners. Okay. Symbols allocated to national parties, the symbol allocated like BJP, wherever it contests in all over India, it contests under the flag of lotus. ठीक है, BJP contests under Congress contests under the flag of hand. ठीक है, so these are the election symbols that have been allotted to them because, and they have the power to, they have the privilege to fight their election throughout India on these election symbols. ठीक है, so because they are national parties. Similarly, when a state party is fighting an election, it has the right to or privilege to contest that election within that state, okay, on the basis of what, that specific election symbol that has been allotted to them. Okay, if a party is an unrecognized party, so it will not be allotted the same symbol throughout the country or throughout the electorates. They will be provided different election symbols at different places. Okay, तो यहाँ पे यूनिफॉर्मिटी, लैक ऑफ यूनिफॉर्मिटी की वजह से प्रिविलेज किसको है ज्यादा, रजिस्टर्ड रिकॉग्नाइज्ड पार्टीज को. ओके, these are the some few privileges. Now we'll be looking at the constitutional provisions and statutory provisions that govern political parties in India and what kind of performance a political party needs to have so that it can be recognized as what, a state party or a national party. Okay, criteria for a national party. The very important criteria is if it secures, this is a bit confusing, but it is easy. Okay, a bit confusing, but it is easy. Let's see how. If it secures 6% of valid votes polled in any 4 states, okay? If it secures 6% of valid votes polled in any 4 or more states at a general election to Lok Sabha or Vidhan Sabha, basically state legislative assembly. For example, अगर पूरी कंट्री में लोकसभा जनरल इलेक्शंस हो रहे हैं लोकसभा के लिए, ठीक है, आई होप यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज जनरल इलेक्शन टू लोकसभा. ठीक है, बेसिकली इफ यू डू नॉट अंडरस्टैंड, इट इज इन द सिंपल टर्म्स जहां हम अपना बेसिकली प्राइम मिनिस्टर चुनते हैं. ठीक है, इन दैट इलेक्शन. ठीक है, व्हेन वी चूज आवर मेंबर्स ऑफ पार्लियामेंट, व्हाट हैपेंस इज if it secures 6%, if a general election to Lok Sabha is going on and if any party secures 6% votes throughout the country, ठीक है, for example any party XYZ had contested throughout the seats in India and if it gets 6% of valid votes polled, so it will become what, a national party. Or if it has secured 6% of votes polled in either of the 4 states, अगर स्टेट का जो लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली है, ठीक है, आई जस्ट वांट टू टेल हियर दैट दिस इज होल कंट्री इंडिया एंड जनरल इलेक्शन टू लोक सभा आर कंडक्टेड फॉर पार्लियामेंट, फॉर चूजिंग मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट. ठीक है, सिमिलरली देयर आर मेनी स्टेट्स इन इंडिया. ठीक है, तो अगर एवरी स्टेट हैज इट्स ओन इलेक्शन फॉर स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली, दैट इज कॉल्ड जनरल इलेक्शन टू स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली. ठीक है, सिंपल लैंग्वेज में वी चूज प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड आवर मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट से, वी चूज स्टेट चीफ मिनिस्टर, सीएम एंड एमएलएज, members of legislative assembly. I hope you understood this. Fine. Now, I hope you understood this. This we already did. Huh. So this point is clear. The second is either it wins 2% of seats in Lok Sabha and these candidates are from 3 states. That means they are trying to divide, they are trying to spread the voter share. For a national party, the main argument is that one party can win all the votes in one state, but if that party does not have a recognition or standing in other states, it cannot be recognized as a national party. That is why it is said that at least 3 states they should win 2% of votes from at least 3 states. Okay, and it is recognized as a state party. If all these conditions fail, and if either the third is correct, then also it can be recognized as a national party. If that is, if a party is recognized as a state party in 4 states, then it can be recognized as a national party. Okay. Similarly, criteria for state parties. The first one is this is very not so very important, not so very interesting as well, but still we'll go through the points. It is given in some of books, you can read them, but for the sake of this lecture we'll definitely go through the points. The first one is secure 6% of valid. Now the point is on state party. Okay, so secure 6% of valid votes polled in state and 2 states in that state legislative assembly. Okay, so not only it is securing more than 6% valid votes, but it should also win 2% of the seats. Okay, in any legislative assembly, for example UP or for example Maharashtra. तो जहां भी वो पार्टी जीतेगी, for example UP or Maharashtra, तो that party will be recognized as a state party in that particular state. ठीक है. अगर ऐसे ही if one party wins 4 like 2% vote in Maharashtra, 2% vote in UP, 2% vote in Goa, 2% vote in Sikkim, so that party will get recognition of national party. Okay, that means if a party gets recognition in 4 states, then as a state party, then it will get the recognition of national party as well. So again, secure 6% of valid votes polled in a state in a general election to Lok Sabha. ठीक है, तो लोक सभा का जो जनरल इलेक्शन टू लोक सभा जो होता है, that is conducted throughout the country. ठीक है, and all these states are delimited according to the delimitation commission. Now, if any party secures 6% of valid votes polled in a state, for example, election for member of parliament is going on, that is general election is going on, and if a party secures 6% of valid votes in one state, for example in UP, okay, and at least one Lok Sabha seat from that state, then it will be called as what? A national party or state party. Okay, and these 3 points you can read. There's nothing more to it. Criteria. This one is important. What? The certain provisions regarding political parties. I'm taking this whole lecture on political parties because it is very important. In recent years there have been questions about political parties, right to vote and all these. That is why rather than taking up election commission, which is already provided in the books, I'm going for political parties. Okay, because this kind of information is not collated at one place. Okay, this is not collected or this is not summarized at one place. It has to be taken from various acts and all, and that is why I have tried to assemble them in one place and provide you all. So registration of political parties is governed by RPA 1951, which section 29A. This is not important, but still what is important is RPA 1951. Political parties are barred from any kind of commercial activity. That is, a political party cannot form a company, not form an organization that has commercial nature. Okay, political parties are allowed to accept voluntary contributions under RPA 1951. Okay, Representation of People's Act 1951 provides that voluntary contribution can be collected by political parties. Further, political parties may be also allowed to own what? Immovable property. Okay, तो प्रॉपर्टी ओन करने का राइट जैसे इंडिविजुअल्स को है, वैसे ही पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को भी है. शेयर्स एंड बॉन्ड्स और ये ओन करने का भी राइट पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को है, एंड दे कैन अर्न डिविडेंड एज वेल. ओके, मोर ओवर all this earning cannot be taxed. That means Section 31A of Income Tax Act provides exemption from any kind of taxation to political parties. That means political parties have 100% tax exemption. Okay. So it is a very important point to note कि there was a report by NGO that works in the field of political reforms, ADR, ठीक है, Association for Democratic Reforms. It is an NGO that works in the field of political reforms. So ADR report in 2019 or 2020, I don't remember exactly, it said that there are 2750 political parties registered with the Election Commission of India. There are 2750 political parties that are registered throughout India, out of which only 7 national parties contest elections and 50 state parties out of which 7 national parties contest elections and only 50 state parties contest election. Rest all of the parties do not contest election. Okay. This raises the question as to why are so many political parties formed at the first place. So the main reason is being Section 31A of Income Tax Act, because Section 31A provides all kind of tax exemption to political parties. So you can understand why people are forming so many political parties and not contesting elections even. Okay. Okay. Section 13A of Income Tax Act 1960 has given all kind of exemption to political parties from taxation. And moreover, one more important thing, earlier political parties were banned from receiving foreign funding. But in 2017, through finance bill, one amendment was done and political parties were allowed to receive foreign funding from Indian individuals or from foreign companies as well, where an Indian individual is having 50% or more than 50% share in that company. Okay. Now coming back to the original question. The original question was, does the Election Commission has power to deregister political parties? Whole of the RPA 1951, which talks about the conduct of elections, which talks about all kind of superintendence of election, commission over elections and registration of political parties and all, it does not talk about deregistration of any political party. It definitely talks about the kind of process that has to be followed for registration, but no mention of deregistration has been provided. Okay. So there was a case also, Indian National Congress versus Institute of Social Welfare in 2002, where it was finally accepted by Supreme Court that Election Commission does not have the power to deregister a political party. However, 3 exceptions were provided by Supreme Court. The first one is if the registration has been obtained by fraud. The second one is if the party has lost the faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. And the third is other similar grounds. Okay. So in normal circumstances, it cannot be, matlab, if a political party has been registered but it is still not contesting elections, so these two are not the grounds to form to deregister the political party. And RPA 1951 of course does not provide for any kind of deregistration for political parties. To sum up, political parties in India, so anyone can form a voluntary organization and register themselves with the Election Commission and form a political party. The registration process for political parties is provided not in the Constitution but where? In RPA 1951, Section 29A. Section is not important, but of course RPA 1951 is very much important. The third point is, since the third point being there are 2 kind of political parties, registered and unrecognized. The second one is registered and recognized. If a party is registered and recognized, it has to be either state party or a national party. Then we saw what the state party, what is the criteria for a state party, and example AIADMK, All India Anna Dravid Munnetra Kadgam, is one such party that contests elections in Tamil Nadu and it is currently a ruling party. The second example was registered recognized parties. It was those parties, The second was national parties. National parties, example, BJP, Congress, AITMC, All India Trinamool Congress, and all these. Okay. And moreover, the last, at the end, we understood that the election commission does not have the power, and the election commission has asked the government, the Ministry of Law and Justice, a lot of times to provide it with the power to make some amendments and provide it with the power to deregister political parties, because of course we saw that ADR, Association for Democratic Reforms, has told us that there are a lot of parties that are registered and they are not even contesting the elections. Okay, so I hope you understood. This is a very important topic from the point of view of prelims in this for RPA 1951, and secondly for mains in the domain of political reforms.